Hey folks, John Peterson here, and it's time for another edition of Which One Works. In this series, I walk you through my decision processes of how I look through my catalogs and pick the photographs that I want to pick. Now, as you know, I look at thousands of photographs a year, both mine as well as a lot of other people's, and so I've got a particular methodology as well as a whole lot of experience in understanding which ones work photographically and which ones might not work as well. Now, I try to do one of these after each one of my photo workshops, and in this episode, I am going to be focused on the Palouse. I just got done running a workshop up there in June, and during that time of year, the wheat is green, it's beautiful, and this is a landscape that just begs for creative photography. I've been running workshops up there for 12, 13 years now, at least one, if not two or three per year. And it's an area that has just grown in my creative interest in photographing this landscape, the Americana, abstracts, macros, close-up, anything and everything. The Palouse is an amazing experience. But let's jump into a few of my photographs that I've picked for you today to look at which one works and why. Alright, jumping into the videos, the first couple of images I want to show you is from a sunrise early one morning, and to go out and shoot sunrise at the Palouse in spring, you have to get up about 2:30, be on location by 3:30, and it's a fun experience. But the reason we were at this location is as the sun starts to come up in the east, it illuminates the tops of these rolling hills, and it can create some really interesting lighting effects. This particular day, we did have a lot of tire tracks in the fields, which provided wonderful visual interest. So this is one frame that I took, and, on the surface, I kind of like it. The story is about the light on the hilltops as well as the tire tracks. I've got a fairly nondescript sky, which is okay. I can jazz that up a little bit if I want to in post-processing. But I've got great light on the hills, and I've got some good tire tracks leading to the back of the image. Now, the things that I don't like about this image that much is I've got tire tracks in different locations in the photograph. So my eye kind of bounces back and forth between these two different tracks. Then the other thing that I don't like is this real big dark hill right here. I could lighten it up, remove some shadows in post-processing, but the thing is, compositionally, this hill doesn't do much for the intent of the photograph, because the intent was really the light on the hilltops and the tire tracks. And I've got this just large nondescript rolling wheat field right behind it that just doesn't fit in any of those two buckets. So it's a little bit of an outlier, and it's got a fairly large amount of real estate in the photograph. So again, I'm devoting some landscape to this feature that doesn't add a lot of value. Now what I did is I switched my perspective a little bit, and I zoomed in my telephoto lens, and I came up with a shot like this. Now notice that I've still got really great light on the tops of the wheat. And I've got a much simpler pattern of tracks through the field. So my whole intent, my whole reason for photographing at this particular time and place was the light and the tracks. And I think this photograph does it much, much better. I still have a large hillside behind it, but notice it just sort of fades to black, and it adds just a real simple background to the star of the show, which is in the lower 2/3 of the photograph. So between these two, Number one, a little bit more wider, a lot more stuff going on visually. And number two, this is the one that I think works better because it captures my intent of why I shot this particular location at this particular time. Later one day, we stopped by a dilapidated, abandoned old house, and it was mid-afternoon, so the light was a little bit harsh, and I shot in monochrome. And here is a shot of the house with this sky overhead. And half the time in the Palouse, we have just blank skies. So anytime I can get clouds in the sky over the wheat fields or structures, I'm extremely happy. So I've got this great, great, great sky overhead. And in this case, I shot this both vertically and horizontally. Here's the vertical, here's the horizontal. Which one do you like better? I'm going to go back to vertical and horizontal. When I can, I try to shoot both orientations for subjects such as this, because when I get home, I can have a better time interpreting which one I like better. And in this case, I like the horizontal one better. I like this one better. Why? Well, it's because of the sky. Notice that I've got these great lines of clouds running left to right or right to left across the sky. In the vertical shot, I have them as well, but being that I don't have a lot of horizontal real estate, those lines get cut off and they just don't have the same visual impact as the horizontal shot does. So this is the one that I think works better than the vertical shot. One of the things I love to do is to take people up to a small little town, and they have these beautiful, believe it or not, grain silos up there. And it's patterns, shapes, textures, all sorts of fun stuff that you can do in a semi-abstract way. And I've shot these silos numerous times. And today on this trip, I tried to do something a little bit differently. And I saw these two platforms and these two silos, and I loved the balance and the symmetry that came with this shot. And so I took this photograph. And at the time that I took it, I saw this one vertical girder and thought, that's going to be a problem. Let's see how bad it is. And I waited until I got home, and when I look at it on my big computer at home, I realized, you know what, that vertical girder is such a strong visual element that it overshadows everything else in the photograph. The balance, the symmetry that I was going for, the texture, all of that is lost because of this bright, heavy, straight, vertical line running through 2/3 of my photograph. So unfortunately, this one didn't work for me. I wish it would have, because I love it, except for that girder. So what do? Well, I've got a really obnoxious pole. What else can I do? Well, slightly off to the side, here's an example of, you know what, I have an element, this pole, that is going to be visually dominating. So instead of trying to shoot around it, why don't we incorporate it into a shot? So even though this isn't exactly the same as the previous one, I wanted to show this as an example of using a maybe less than desirable element and creating a photograph out of it. I've got this beautiful repeating pattern / texture behind the platform and pole. I've got this great shadow against the corrugated tin of the silo. And almost the pole and the platform take a backstage to the patterns and the shadow. But this was a way that I could incorporate a less than desirable element here into a photograph and still maybe make it work. But if I wanted that kind of balance and symmetry at this location, the best I could do in that day was something like this. I had to completely avoid that large vertical pole and find a different shot that had some symmetry, some texture, some pattern. And in this case, it's this wonderful stairway and scaffolding. All right, moving back to landscape. This great split tree. This is a really famous tree that you can see from up top, a step-toe butte. It's oftentimes in a lot of people's photographs, but we took this one evening and we took the road down to the base of the tree. It's a real beautiful pastoral setting at the base of this tree, and I shot the tree. Here's shot number 1, and here's shot number 2. Now, let's go back to shot number 1. In a shot like this, the tree is very large in the photograph, which is great. That's kind of why we were there, and that's the intent, was to shoot this tree in the wheat fields. But notice that I've got this also a somewhat decent sky overhead. Now, going to shot number 2, notice that the tree is not quite as large. It's further to the right of the frame, and I have more sky overhead. This gives me a little bit more of a landscape documentary feel of what it was like to be on location. This closer shot, which is more about the tree that happens to be in a wheat field, versus a farming setting with wheat fields that has a tree in it. This shot here, this first shot, which is more about the tree, well, the tree isn't really that pretty or that interesting in my estimation. I've seen a lot prettier trees. It is a nice tree, but I don't know if it's worthy of being the star of the show. It's an important element, but not the star of the show. And in this case, I sort of have the tree step back from stardom and be a strong cast member in the story that I'm telling of the wheat fields. So this is the one that I prefer over the first one. Real nice quintessential Palouse photograph. Speaking of other Palouse photographs, we do a lot of work with just rolling wheat fields. It's shape, it's light, it's shadow. And this is potentially one of the shots that I might work up and process. And I have 2 versions of this. There's this first shot, and there's the second shot. First shot, the second shot. And notice the difference here. It's really about the foreground. So I'm looking right down here, and notice that I have a really light green line running down here. And the primary point of interest is right here, smack dab in the middle of the frame. Now, if I go to the second shot, notice that the yellow line is gone, and this visual interest is just below the middle point of the frame, and I get a little more sky. First shot, this about smack dab right here. And because I don't have really interesting light right here, I'm not sure I want to make this bullseye right in the middle of the photograph. So I tend to prefer this one because it's just slightly below the bullseye, and I get a little bit more dark clouds that I'm going to be able to process extremely well. We went out one evening for sunset out in the wheat fields and found this great kind of weather vane water pump is really what this is. It's a water pump. And the wind was blowing, so the vanes were spinning, and it got some great motion of that. And I've got this shot, and I've got this shot. I like this shot because of the light that's back here on these hills, and it's a nice contrast against the sky. So this area right here is beautiful. The thing I don't like about this shot is this subject is on the right-hand side of the frame. And this is typically the weakest zone of a photograph, is the lower right. If I go back to the first photograph, notice that I'm almost on the left third line, which is right here. And this subject is really well anchored towards the center of the photograph. But what I've lost is this beautiful area out here to the left. So it's really a question for you, and which one do you prefer? This one with that great light and sky. If I didn't have the weather vane or the water pump here, I would love this photograph. But because this is in this weak area of the photograph, I tend to prefer this one over the other one. Now, lastly, another very subtle difference between two photographs. Notice that, again, it's rolling wheat fields, it's tire tracks, and it's this incredible sky that we have overhead. So here's shot number 1, and here's shot number 2. Shot number 1, shot number 2. Now in shot number 2, notice how much foreground that I have. Lots of foreground. This is more about the wheat fields that happens to have tire tracks and a sky overhead, versus shot number 1, which I immediately start into some faint tire tracks that grow stronger, and I have a really strong sky overhead. Foreground that happens to have tracks and sky, or tracks and sky with less strong of a foreground. Because of my intent and what I was trying to do was to shoot the wheat, the tracks, and the clouds overhead, this is the one that I prefer. All right, folks, hope you enjoyed that edition of Which One Works, coming to you from the Palouse. If you like this video, check out some of the other ones that I've done in this same series. And if you have not subscribed to this channel, please feel free to click the subscribe button, tickle the bell, hit the like button. All that stuff is very much appreciated by me. Thank you very much. If you have any questions, please feel free to drop me a note down below. If you have a different opinion about which one works and why, I'd love to hear your thoughts down below in the comments. Otherwise, hope you have a great day and happy shooting.